Hello and welcome back to Suspended Fanimation. I'm your host, Dennis Bithoulkas, and it's time for another episode of Is It Worth My Time? And this time around, it's the Christopher Nolan movie Tenet, which is out in theaters, on video, and now on HBO Max. So yeah, you can watch it if you have HBO Max there. Welcome, everybody. Let me take care of some business first, and then we'll get down to it. If you like what you see here, like, share, and subscribe. If you're still on the fence about subscribing, take a look at the video that pops up at the very end here. Basically, YouTube takes the algorithms of all the stuff you've been watching and tries to match it as best as possible to all the videos in my vast video library and pops it up there just for you. And if you like what you see there, hit that subscribe button down below there. Also, if you want to know when I'll be on live again next, you get the bell down below. It's a 50-50 chance of YouTube actually notifying you. Best thing to do is go to suspendedfanimation.com. Take a look at the schedule up there. I change it out every week. Also, I have all the links to my social media, so Twitter, Instagram, Patreon. And I have the links to this YouTube channel, my Facebook page, and a Facebook group page where you guys can post stuff and chat amongst yourselves. All right, let's get to it. The non-spoiler version of Tenet. Is it a time travel movie? No, it is not. And yes, it is, kind of. It's a time manipulation movie. That's about all I can give you on that for not spoiling anything. It plays out more like a spy drama, if you will, almost like a James Bondian kind of movie, I guess you could say. And people have said this is Robert Pattinson's screen test to become James Bond, is what they were saying that it was. Even though John David Washington is the one that is the main character in this, and he's just called the protagonist. By the way, he doesn't have a name or anything like that. Just called the protagonist. Yes, it is a convoluted plot. And some of the terminology I think is wrong, honestly, in it. But at least to me, it's wrong, I should say. And double otagonist, exactly, double otagonist. I can't recommend this movie, quite honestly, even though it has time manipulation in it, supposedly time travel as well. So yeah, I'm going to say it's not worth your time on this one, just because it really is convoluted. I understood it. I got what it was when I went through the first time. I've only seen it once, by the way. So I went through it and I was like, okay. So everyone was saying this is really confusing. It's not. I understood what was happening, and I thought maybe I was just missing the point on something. As everyone says, you're not getting it. You don't understand it. So I went through and I did a little research on the internet. I'm like, no, everyone else is saying the exact same thing, how I understood it. So it did happen the way it happened. And I did understand it. It just wasn't something I was like, okay, this is mind blowing. Wow. Or anything like that. It was an action movie, but with some time manipulation in it. And not the best Christopher Nolan movie, not the worst Christopher Nolan movie either. Yeah, it was just, yeah. So there you go. So no, I can't recommend it. It's not worth your time on that one. Raymond K. Hustle says he definitely looks suave enough. Team Edward all the way. All right. With that said, spoiler alert, I am going to spoil the movie. If you have not seen the movie, go and watch it. Come on back. This will be a video. You can comment down below in the comment section. All right, we got it. Yes. And by the way, I moved the camera off of the gimbal arm so I can actually bump the table now and not shake the camera too badly anyway. Let me get a sip of water here. Apple Crow says, I enjoyed it, but I think knowing it's a spy thriller first with an actual sci-fi issue helped. I didn't think it was bad. It just wasn't, the end all be all. I mean, you always get those snobby motherfuckers. That's all I'm going to say. Who want to be above everyone else and go, well, you just don't get it. You don't understand it. you are too stupid to get it, kind of thing. And it's like, no, it's not that. I got it. I mean, yes, basically, in order to go back in time, you reverse your entropy, which, by the way, let's go and take a look at what the definition of entropy is, shall we? In physics, entropy is defined as a thermodynamic quantity representing the unavailability of a system's thermal energy for conversion into mechanical work, often interpreted as the degree of disorder or randomness in the system. What the fuck does that mean? We'll get to that in a minute. Or number two, a lack of order or predictability, gradual decline into disorder. Okay. Or number three, if you're going into information theory, a logarithmic measure of the rate of transfer of information in a particular message or language. So what does that mean when you are talking about the entropy of an object, say a bullet, for example, that your gun is catching the bullet because the bullet's entropy is reversed, is what that means. I think what he meant to say was the potential energy is reversed. Yeah, because entropy does not make any sense in that definition. It does and it doesn't. It really doesn't. But I think he was talking more, potential energy than entropy. So anyway, basically what this is, I mean, the whole thing of being able to go backwards in time by the only way you can go back in time is you have to reverse your own entropy. I'm just going to use it since he used it anyway. And you have to live it minute by minute going back in time. But the thing that doesn't work here is you still age, even though you're aging backwards. You're not getting younger. You're still getting older because of the way you're reversed. And you have to live out minute by minute. So if you want to go back 5 years, you have to live out 5 years going backwards through time. And you're still getting older. You age 5 years, but you go back in time 5 years. So this also brings up the whole thing about why people need to wear oxygen masks, because they can't breathe the air that is going backwards in time, because it's being sucked out of their lungs. So they need to have an oxygen tank with them that is also reversed with them so that it can breathe, so they can breathe in air. Well, wouldn't they also need to bring food with them from that, from their place in the time stream as well? Wouldn't they need, also your molecules? I mean, pretty much all the molecules in the air and stuff like that are going backwards through time as well. And it just doesn't work in theory, is what I'm saying here. Kevin Lopez says this movie made me feel stupid. I think that's what it was designed for, Kevin. That's what I think it was, and it's really shouldn't be, because the physics behind it are bad. It really is. Applecross says, "Wait, if you're reversed, wouldn't that mean that you'd have to go? That you'd have to go give a shit?" Yeah, you would. Exactly. Applecross says, "I'm laughing because I'm thinking the same people who would say you didn't get it would say you're overthinking." Yeah, exactly. That's the other thing too, is when you're calling out their bullshit, they're also going to say, now you're overthinking it. It's not happening. Raymond K. Hessel says, "How do people use the restroom there? Does poop get sucked back into you?" No, only the people that are going forward in the time stream, you would see the poop getting sucked back into them as you're going backwards in the time stream. So to you, it would look like they were going, backwards. Yeah. It was a very convoluted plot. And let's talk about the algorithm. I mean, he literally could have called it the MacGuffin device, is what he could have called this, and still gotten away with it. I mean, fuck. Cameron used unobtainium. So, I mean, calling this thing the algorithm, which is a device that is a physical representation of an equation that a scientist in the future has made to basically turn all of time backwards. So for the Earth. So supposedly in the future, things are so fucked up that a genius in their time, in the future, has come up with an algorithm that can reverse the flow of time and essentially unravel everything, destroy everything that we know. That is if they believed in the grandfather paradox. So basically, he's putting all these strings of physics theory, time travel theory, into this one movie. The grandfather paradox, of course, being that if you go back in time and kill your own grandfather, supposedly you can't do that because you would never be born then in order to go back in time and kill your grandfather because you wouldn't exist, right? So what they're saying is that the people in the future, there is a faction in the future that doesn't believe the grandfather theory. They believe that whatever has happened has already happened. So if you go back and kill your grandfather, you still exist because it's already happened. And now if you go back to Avengers Endgame and you talk about um, branching off the timeline, that might be a more plausible explanation of this. Is you go back in time, kill your grandfather, but you've split off the timeline now. So that is the junction point, is where you go and kill off your grandfather, and then you become you go back to your point, to your future, or to the future in that timeline, and it's now no longer the future that you left from to go back to the past, because you have broken off the timeline and you've gone into another time, into another alternate version of your time that you came from. I agree with you, Raymond. Unless you're from Futurama and you bump uglies with your nana and you become your own grandfather. So this is the kind of realm that I like living in. Is this theory of time travel? It doesn't really give me too much of a headache. It actually intrigues me, and yes, it is a thought game. Really, is what it is. There's no way to really prove it. It's just one of those thought games of, well, if you do X and Y, Z is not possible, or it is possible, and that's, yeah, exactly it. There's an excellent book out there, and I was actually going to find it beforehand, and I didn't. Oh, I see it. Just one moment. There it is. Great book. So this book is called Einstein's Dreams, and it's basically a book. All these different writers, they did short stories based on relativity, on Einstein's relativity, and the whole story revolves around Einstein falling asleep in the patent office and having dreams, basically about time. So all these different kind of versions of time. And it's a great primer if you are uncertain about relativity and are studying, physics as well. This is a great little book, by the way. I don't know if it's in print anymore. I got this thing long ago. So trying to remember when this is. I need some glasses in order to see. 1993 is when the copyright is on this. So yeah, this is almost 30 years old here. But yeah, great little book. Take a look and read it if you want to, have some fun with time travel or time itself. And yeah, I'm sitting there, I'm looking at it, and I'm going, yeah, this movie is interesting, but it's not. It's trying to be. It really is trying to be bourgeois, I guess you could say, in a way, and elitist, uh, in some form or fashion. Which honestly, I kind of figure Christopher Nolan is, for the most part. That's what I've always envisioned him as, anyway, when I've seen some of his movies. And yeah, I don't know, man. Maybe if his brother Jonathan had written it. I don't even know. Did Jonathan write this or not? Who wrote this movie? I actually have it up here. Writing credit says Christopher Nolan, so he wrote it. Yeah, there you go. I think if his brother Jonathan had actually taken a stab at it, it would have been a bit better. Or if he consulted with Jonathan, he might have consulted with Jonathan a bit on this. But Jonathan, I think, is better at writing the sci-fi than Christopher is. That's all I'm gonna say. And has more experience at it too. So what else are we saying here? Kevin Lopez says, this is one of the reasons Mr. Robot avoided actually messing with time travel. It's confusing. Exactly, Kevin. And Sam Esmail even said that was kind of the red herring, the whole thing about time travel. And yes, I admit I fell for it, that red herring, and I latched on, or as you know, with claws, because I wanted to believe that that's where he was going with it. And nope, it was a fucking red herring. But yeah. Apple Crow says Tenet should have ended with two testicle monsters showing up and beating up everyone. Yeah. Yeah. I would have actually loved to have the time cops come in and stop all this. Now you stop this silliness. That would have been a lot better. The whole thing with him going back and starting the whole Tenet thing to begin with, and going back years in order to recruit Neil early on, who's Pattinson's character, is just kind of stupid. I mean, he also recruits Priya as well, and the ease with which he trusts these people in order to start working with them is also kind of on the ridiculous scale, considering that this man was supposedly part of an agency, part of the CIA, and yet he's shown something that could have probably been faked fairly easily, and yet he believes it hook, line, and sinker, and just starts going with it. That was the other unbelievable part of it for me. So, Apple Crow says it felt like episodes 2 of 8 of 10 episode TV show. Not really. It did have a beginning, middle, and end, Apple Crow. It just was it wasn't a well thought out idea. It wasn't a fully formed idea, is what I'm gonna say on that. And it was someone who thought they had a really good idea and thought they knew better than everyone else. And you could tell it just smacked of this. Again, it smacked of elitism when you start watching it, and I'm like, oh, okay. So you're just trying to basically say, oh, all you stupid fuckers out there aren't going to get it. And it's like, no, I got it the first time around. It wasn't that difficult to understand. And quite honestly, it was. And I'm gonna do a little elitism myself. I'm gonna say it's kind of pedestrian in its thinking. There you go. So if you talk to some real physicists about it, you would have gotten into some really deep shit that you wouldn't have gotten out of. And make your head kind of go and explode. That's where it actually starts hurting. Raymond K. Hessel says, what you couldn't tell the elitism from the yachts and boat races. I know. Do you think Neil is the child? Which child, Raymond? I don't remember the child. Maybe I blanked on it. I mean, honestly, I don't know, man. This thing, it was designed to, like I said, it was designed to make people feel inadequate while they're watching it, is what it was. And you really shouldn't feel inadequate while you're watching it. It's an okay movie. And again, I'll go back to the History of Time Travel movie, which I would say is a better time travel movie, even though it has a fraction of the budget that Tenet was filmed for, and does time travel better. It really does. And has a more plausible look at time travel than this movie does. Yeah. That's what I'm going to say on that. So yeah, I can't recommend this movie. I mean, if you're going to watch it as an action movie, sure, you can watch it as an action movie. But other than that, don't try and beat yourself up over the physics on it. And really, don't try and think of yourself as stupid for not understanding it. Because again, like I said, that is how this movie is set up is it wants you to make you feel stupid is really what it is. Um, how do I feel about the casting, Kevin? The casting was good. I love John David Washington. I really do. I want to see him in more things. I've professed this before. I first remember seeing him. I know he's been in other stuff, but for me, I think the first role I kind of noticed him in was Black Klansman, which is a hilarious movie, but also frightening as well. Uh, and loved him in that movie. And ever since then, I've just been following everything he does. Robert Pattinson, uh, I think the Twilight movies hurt him initially, but now he's coming to his own as an actor, and I like what he's putting down. I like the stuff that he's doing. I always love Kenneth Branagh. Kenneth Branagh is great. Him playing the Russian, he and Gary Oldman, I think, might have traded notes, swapped some notes on how to play Russians, because he's doing the same accent that Gary Oldman did in The Hitman's Bodyguard. Literally the exact same accent. It's hilarious. Go and watch it and compare the two. It just makes me laugh like a motherfucker every time I see it. And yes, Elizabeth Debicki is actually great in this as well. So Applecrow says, curious. I like to call JJ Styles something that makes you feel smart when it's a dumb plot. Nolan makes you feel dumb when it's a dumb plot, but not as dumb. So no, it's not a dumb plot. It just wasn't thought through. It's a half-baked plot is really what it is. And it's something that he should have done more research on. He should have honestly just talked to some physicists and put this this theory out there and let them run with it. And they would have set him straight and actually run through some of the scenarios and said, well, you're forgetting this, 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 and this. And he would have to go back to the drawing board and actually clean up some of his stuff and tighten it up a bit. I'm not saying that it's a dumb movie. I'm also not saying it's a smart movie. It's just kind of, it feels like it didn't go far enough in the process of writing. And again, if you're writing something like this, if you're writing a sci-fi movie, you need to talk to experts, especially if you're not an expert in this field. And in something like physics, even it's theoretical. It's something that's theoretical as time travel. Always talk to whoever the professional is in your field, even if it is not provable at the time. Raymond K. Hessel says, I like Predestination as a good time travel movie. On the bright side, we'll be getting the time variance authority in Loki. I agree. I love. So again, Raymond, one of the things that I love in time travel movies or time travel stories is if there's an authority, if you will, that supposedly is overlooking time travel. And it makes me laugh. That's the reason why I like Legends of Tomorrow. Legends of Tomorrow had the time travel authority that Rick that Hunter put together. And I loved that for a little while. And when that got destroyed, I was like, oh, they needed something like that, because it would have been fun as a home base to kind of go back to all the time. But yeah, it is something that I'm looking forward to in Loki. Celebro469 says, finished the movie today, then saw some YouTube videos. They say Pattinson is the son recruited and sent back. The soldier at the end breaking up the device is also Michael Caine, also sent back in time. Okay. That's plausible. So the other thing that gets me is you have to be a fanatic. You're not going to survive coming from the future, because they're saying generations from now in the future is where the algorithm is created. So if you have to be a fanatic in order to live lifetimes, basically recruiting other people with you, and having children and indoctrinating your children to believe those same things in order to live with you going backwards through time, in order to deliver this device, in order to be distributed in 9 different places. And then also, let's talk about the lack of foresight on the scientist's part, who is hiding. She hid these 9 different pieces of the algorithm in 9 nuclear superpowers, right? She knew the Soviet Union was going to break up because she lives in the future. She has that information already. So why would she hide that in an area one of the pieces anyway, where they knew that Kenneth Branagh's character was going to find it. You know, that's the thing that kind of gets me on this. Sator. If you're living in the future, you already have that knowledge. You know where it's going to be, where these pieces are. Basically, you know what the state of these governments are, what's going to fail, what's not going to fail. So there's that as well. There was that little. It wasn't thinking fourth dimensionally, as Doc Brown would say. So yeah, it's one of those things that you sit there and you start thinking about it, and it's like, well, that doesn't make sense, and that doesn't make sense, and then it starts unraveling from there. So Apple says, instead of dumb, I should have said smart. Tomato, tomato. Raymond says, oh, I didn't get the whole art blackmail thing. That was just in there as another means to an end, Raymond. It didn't mean anything, really. And so the lover, so I'll give you one. So that whole art blackmail thing, if you are going backwards through time, waiting to get to a destination point, what would you do? Would you take up maybe a hobby or something like that? Would you start drawing? Would you become really good at art to the point where you could become a forger or become good at forgery and art forgery or something like that? And would you be the one that actually creates that piece of art that you know that your future self is going to be able to use once you get further enough down the time stream? So there's all kinds of shit, man. I mean, yeah, you could go down a little rabbit hole of who does what and how Nolan set this thing up. And honestly, it's not worth it. I hate to say this, it's really not worth kind of obsessing on. And I know there's going to be people that do obsess on it. That's just the nature of how some people act on this. But yeah, so no, it is not worth your time. Again, unless you just want to watch it as an action movie. There you go. Ooh, and my camera agrees. Thank you, Raven. You didn't need to do that. So are inverted bullets embedded in walls around the world? How would one know when to use them? Supposedly you get a feeling when you're around them, Raven. Supposedly you get a funny feeling according to Nolan on that. And that just, I mean, yeah. That just really sounded stupid. Well, how do you know things are inverted? Well, you kind of get a funny feeling around them. Well, what? At least that's what the scientist tells the protagonist at the beginning there. Or you just walk around with some lead gloves and you try and catch as many bullets as possible. Oh my God. Oh, yeah. I don't know, man. Yeah, it just, like I said, it there's a lot of things that don't make sense in this movie. Just because, again, it wasn't thought out fully. Yeah. Raymond says, laugh out loud. Did you also notice the lack of extras in the big fight scene at the end? Yeah. It was, yeah, it does not. There was a lot of money that was spent on this movie. I'll say that much. And it seemed like a really good way of seeing a lot of fancy locales on Warner Brothers dime. Not that I'm saying that Nolan, used this opportunity to make a bad movie in order to go on a vacation like Adam Sandler does for Netflix. I'm just saying there's a lot of really interesting locations that he filmed in, a lot of expensive locations that he filmed in that probably didn't need to be there. That could have been replicated on a soundstage. Reverse shots fired. Exactly. They were inverted. Their entropy was inverted. Entropy inverted. Ugh. That still just made me. I mean, I was literally, as soon as they said their entropy is reversed, I looked up and I'm like, that's not what entropy means. I looked it up. I'm like, no, potential energy, possibly. Yeah. It just, yeah. Mm, yeah. That's all I'm going to say on that. So, with that said, what else do I have on the docket for the rest of this week? Well, tomorrow I'm off because I need to take a little break. Well, there's nothing else on too. Friday is going to be another episode 2 of The Bad Batch. Star Wars The Bad Batch is going to be on Friday. Saturday is going to be Saturday Morning Blast Off, where I take the genre news of the week and any other genre stuff you guys want to talk about, and we talk about it. Sunday is The Nevers. That's right. The Nevers is back on Sunday for me. Monday, I'm going to be off. Tuesday is another episode of Is It Worth My Time? And this time around, it's going to be the Netflix series Jupiter's Legacy, which happens to drop on Friday as well. I'm going to go through that series. I'm not going to do them episode by episode because it drops all at once. It's just kind of pointless to do episode by episode. Wednesday and Thursday, I'm off as well next week. So, and of course, Bad Batch will be on Friday. Loki, thank God, just moved, I believe, to Wednesdays, the Loki series, because they realized the Bad Batch and Loki would be on the same day. And Disney Plus and all its glory there has decided to separate the two out. And thankfully, because doing 2 shows on a work weekday, it would kill me. Weekend's not that bad. Weekday, yeah, man, I got to carve out time for that kind of shit. Do we need to watch the movies for the Jupiter series? There are no movies, Raymond. They're just the series that's going to drop. So this is based off of Mark Millar's The Millar World, and I think he did some comics on this. And I love Mark Millar. He's does some great comics. So I want to see what he's going to do here. Oh, and by the way, I forgot to mention in this. So the guy Ives, the big burly guy Ives. I kept looking at him like, who the fuck is this guy? With the accent, right? And he looks familiar, but I couldn't tell who he was. You know who that fucker is? That is, and now let me go back to my IMDb page here. Aaron Taylor Johnson. Quicksilver from the MCU, the real Quicksilver, the one who actually ended up dying in by the hail of gunfire kind of thing. Yeah. So that is him. He was also, Kick-Ass in the Kick-Ass movies as well. Speaking of Mark Millar. Yeah, I honestly, it wasn't until I started looking at the cast list that I was like, oh shit, that was him. Because the guy looked familiar, but I just didn't bother looking him up until just before I got on here. Raymond Chaos, I thought they were like Jupiter Ascending and another similar one. No, it's just the name that's familiar, Raymond. That's all it is. Yeah. Jupiter's Legacy is something else. It's just, yeah. And Jupiter Ascending is that really bad Wachowski siblings movie that they did with the stripper, Tatum Channing Tatum. There we go. Yeah. You mean furries on skates? What do I mean? But yeah, I didn't know that was Aaron Taylor Johnson. Huh, go figure. You actually did a good job in that one. I liked it. When you bury yourself that far into a role that I can't recognize you, there you go. That's actually really good. And supposedly Wes Chatham, there we go. From The Expanse was in there. He played SWAT number 3. I thought that was, Amos from The Expanse. He was in there too. Applecross is in the Wachowski movie. He's part. Well, oh, that's right. He has the anti-gravity. I honestly, I think I saw the first 10 minutes of that movie, Applecross, before I fell asleep, and then I woke up when the credits were rolling. I could never make it through that movie. Pretty much that and Speed Racer. Speed Racer is a pretty movie that the Wachowski siblings did, and it's just really bad. It really is, but it's very pretty. It's very stylistic. Very stylistic. Yeah. All right. Thank you to everybody who joined me tonight in the chat, and thank you if you made it this far in the video. If you're still on the fence about subscribing, take a look at the video that pops up at the very end here. Basically, YouTube takes the algorithms of all the stuff you've been watching and tries to match it as best as possible. One of the videos in my vast video library and pops it up there just for you. And if you like what you see there, hit that subscribe button down below there. And also, if you can, hit that like button and the share button as well. And if you want to know when we're on live again next, hit the bell down below. It's a 50-50 chance of YouTube actually notifying you. Best thing to do is go to suspendedfanimation.com. Take a look at the schedule I have up there. I change it out every week. And also all the links to my social media and the links to my pages. All right. Thank you, everybody. I'm going to let you guys go for the night. I will see you again on Friday for Star Wars The Bad Batch Episode 2. So until then, don't let the door hit your ass on the way out. Otherwise, you may get reversed through time and have to become a forger so that you can convince your future self to follow a very vague lead that's going to take you into another world and having you set up a future agency in the past that's supposed to protect humanity from being ripped apart by a MacGuffin device that's badly called the algorithm. Yeah. Anyway. Thanks, everybody. I will see you again on Friday. Until then, stay safe, be well, take care. Wear those masks, get those vaccine shots if you can get an appointment. Well, actually, I think the appointments are fairly plentiful right now, so go out and do it. And I will see you again on Friday. Have a good rest of your night. Take care. Have a good one.